evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Dota Show episode number 27. Yeah, this is airing after number 29, but today is going to be Dota 101. We will be focusing on a particular hero, but unlike the, well, recently renamed, I should say, it's no longer getting that ass Larry. It is LD's lab now. But unlike that, we're not as focused on the hero, we're more focused on the big concepts related to that hero. But I thought Bounty Hunter was a great choice. We're going to be looking at the suicide lane today. But before I get into all that, a couple of things that have been percolating through my brain, and then we'll get underway with Bounty Hunter and talking about the suicide lane. Alright, so here's the first thing, and this has just been driving me absolutely apeshit. I have no idea why, but it's just really bothered me. For some reason, I've been getting a lot of flack for saying Zhou when I'm pronouncing the name spelled Z-H-O-U. Now, if anybody actually knows Chinese, has experience with Mandarin or any of the other Chinese dialects, all the research I've done, it is Zhou, and I'm not pronouncing. I don't think I'm doing the J just right, but it is sort of that J noise, not Joe. I know it's not that. And in fact, I went so far as to do a bunch of research. I found two pronunciations, which I'm going to play now, just in support of my cause. And this is not I'm not sure if these are the most authoritative sources, but they seem pretty reasonable to me. So that's the first one. And here's the second. And I bring this all up because this has been driving me absolutely apeshit.
Joe.
Oh, you don't know Chinese. Stop saying Joe. It's not Joe. Alright, well, everything I can find says it's Joe. Or it says it's Joe. So if it's wrong, provide me with the source, please. God damn it. I don't know why I let the haters bother me, but on this point, my blood pressure, too high. Alright, so I guess the next order of business... Oh, where's my phone? Ah, here it is. The next order of business, I drop my phone a lot, right? And it's a smartphone, but it's pretty sturdy. It's had some pretty bad spills, like it's hit the floor from like 4 or 5 feet off the ground. It's been totally fine. No real harm done to it. I mean, maybe there's internal damage, but on the screen it looks okay. I barely dropped it, like literally like a foot off the ground, and this happened. I was sad. Oh man, I am due for a new one anyway, but I can't really afford it right now. I think when my contract expires, I can get a new one. But anyway, oh, that was bad. All right, so let me actually make sure you guys can all hear me. I'm gonna check the stream chat real quick. No, you might be kidding, but there are some very, very angry commenters, particularly on Luminous's YouTube channel. And this is a response to DGBic. Yeah, there are some very angry people who are saying, I don't know Chinese, it's not hard to pronounce, just do it the way Lumi's doing it. Well, as far as I know, the way Lumi's doing it is wrong. Maybe there's in the dialect where it's correct. Anyway, I've done research on it, so if my research is bad, then provide me with good research. But as far as I know, it is Zhou, and it was just something that drove me absolutely apeshit. Speaking of the microphone setup, I do have a new microphone. I hope it's better. I'm not sure if it's set up properly. I'm not talking into it. It's sort of off to my right here. Webcam's over here, microphone's over there. But it's one of those, like, nice microphones, supposedly. So I'll actually show you guys in case you're curious what it looks like. So it's, I don't know if you guys can see this. Yeah, so it's this thing. It's like the pop filter. Anyway, I think it's better. I'm curious to hear your feedback on how you like the audio quality compared to the old one. But with all that being said, I do have a new microphone. So I show that to you. And oh, actually, there's something else I wanted to show you. All right, so if you're looking at it, do you see... Oh, God damn it. All right, you see how it's got that arm up top? The top arm? Then there's the one on the bottom as well. Well, here's the thing about that top arm. There is a little... I know the fan drives some people insane, so let me fix that. There's a little, like, thing that you tighten on that top arm, which prevents it from swinging up and down. Which I didn't know about. I couldn't find it at first. So here's what ends up happening. I set it all up. By the way, big shout out to Kawa for helping me get the new microphone set up. It's the same, apparently. Anyway, yeah, apparently it's not positioned properly. I'll fix that later. But anyway, alright, so that arm, like, there's a way to tighten it, right? But I didn't know about that. And so the arm keeps on, like, flopping over when I attach the microphone. I thought the microphone was too heavy. It slammed to the desk like 3 times before I finally figured out that I had a separate attachment to do it. Anyway, I'm pretty clumsy. I break things, I smash things a lot, I drop things. Apparently, that's who I am. All right, without any further ado, let's go into the episode for this week. So we're gonna jump into my notes, and I do have a very detailed cheat sheet for this week. Although I think I could do it impromptu, but let's go. So last week we looked at Pinoy style solo mid Dragonite. We also, what else did we look at? I think we looked at Earthshaker for our lady analysis for Dota 101. In the more recent episode of LD's Lab, not getting that, sorry, LD's Lab, we looked at the Laser Rockets build on solo mid Tinker. Again, that was aired out of order before this one. Today, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at playing Bounty Hunter in the off lane, in the suicide lane. Let's quickly run through Bounty Hunter's strengths as a hero. He provides good burst damage between Shrieking, and I think I got that one right. Shrieking, as well as Shadow Walk, as well as Janata. He provides some good burst damage. He's invisible, and in low-level games, if you're a little bit of a high-level player, like, oh, no big deal, you buy detection, you got Sentry Wards, you got Gem, I'm prepared, I'm ready. Well, actually, it turns out being invisible is probably the single best ability to have out of anything in the game, in low-level games. Even in medium skill games, it can be very, very powerful. First of all, it's got that psychological effect, right? Like, you don't know where this guy is. It's sort of like Prophet being able to TPN, except a little bit worse, because at least you can sometimes see him. You almost never see Bounty Hunter on the map. Same with Stealth Assassin. Even if you buy detection, you still have to pay for that. It's not free, or you have to counterpick with a certain hero, like a Slardar or a Bounty Hunter if you don't have one. So your options are pretty limited across the board for dealing with it, and the options that you do have are expensive. So he's invisible. That is one of his strengths. He's relatively item and level dependent. Now, a lot of pub players, even higher level ones, or decently skilled ones, think that Bounty Hunter is a damage dealer. This is a common misconception. He can do a lot of damage, and in pub games, you'll even see a lot of pros when they're pubbing, they'll sort of mess around, they'll build, ridiculous amounts of damage items and just try and one-shot everyone. He can do that, but that's not really his strength. His strength is the fact that he doesn't need those items to do a good amount of damage, and he also can provide a ton of gold to his team, which we'll get into in just a second. Mostly you just need to hit level 6 and buy a very few cheap or cost-effective items, and then you can start doing a lot of work. He's got some pretty decent damage potential, which I mentioned. If you get MKB, if you get Desolator, if you get all your big damage items, Daedalus as well, well, that would be... I don't know how it interacts with Janata, actually, and I think it works when you're knocking a Janata crit in Dota 2 is the way it works. But either way, big damage items will make Janata hit a lot harder, gives you some good damage potential. But really why he's picked is one ability, and that's Track. Gives you gold, gives you move speed, gives you minus armor. So the gold you get whenever a hero's tracked and that hero dies, and it gives you gold, it gives the rest of your team gold. And by the way, it gives you a shitload of gold. Like, if you like gold, this is like Scrooge McDuck's, if you guys ever watch DuckTales, he has like his vault where they just swim in gold. That's pretty much Bounty Hunter. And even if he's not the one getting the most of it, his team certainly will be. So that's his strengths. His weaknesses, they're pretty simple. He's squishy. He's a melee hero. He does require some levels in farm, so he's not a Crystal Maiden who's pretty much completely independent of those. And he's pretty slow at farming. He doesn't really have any abilities to flash farm. He's not good at clearing out creep waves. There are some other weaknesses, but these are sort of the big ones that I'm going to talk about. So, in terms of his skills, we have Shrieking. And I'm going to hop inside the game now so you guys have something else to look at besides my ugly mug. Alright, so the first skill, Shriek and Toss. You'll see a lot of pro players prefer... Oh, and actually I'm spoiling the replay. There we go. You'll see some players prefer just never to level this up past 2, and I'll show you why in just 1 second. Yeah, let's actually look at Shriek and Toss. So, at level 1 it does 100 damage, at level 2 it does 200. At level 3 it only adds on 50. Don't ask me why it scales this way, it's just freaking weird. And at level 4 it adds 75. So that first and second skill point of Shriek and Toss give you so much damage. 200 damage for 2 skill points. And by the way, it also has a mini stun, so you can cancel TPs, you can cancel channeling abilities like Nicholas Black Hole with it. It's a great spell to get at least 2 points in, but a lot of players won't level up beyond that. If you want to do so, it's not that it's bad, it's just not as skill point efficient. As far as Janata goes, this is normally the first skill you want to max on Bounty Hunter, in most games. It gives you a ton of bonus damage, it's based on your auto attacks. It's a passive, it cools down, and then when it cools down, the next auto attack will do the bonus damage, and it does a move speed slow, as well as an attack speed slow, which is a little bit less known. but it will slow whoever you're attacking's attack speed. It's a MAME, basically, so it's very similar to Sange in that regard. The duration, 3 seconds, pretty good slow, actually. Now, the big thing about Janata is that the cooldown goes way down and the damage goes way up when you level it up, so it's very efficient to level this up. Normally, what you're going to max first, Shadow Walk. You normally get 1 point in this early, and then you'll level it up later. You want at least 2 points, because then the duration is longer than the cooldown, so you can actually get 2 off in a row without coming out of invis by accident. It makes you invis, and it makes you do bonus damage when you come out of it. Pretty self-explanatory. And then finally, track. I mentioned it briefly. This is the big one. Anybody who's near a tracked enemy hero gets bonus move speed, including yourself. You also get some minus armor. Pretty small at level 1, but it scales up decently. Minus 5 armor is an assault cuirass worth of minus armor to whatever is being targeted with the debuff, the aura that it provides. So it's pretty decent at that. And then the bonus gold it gives you. It lasts for a reasonably long time. It also reveals invis heroes. But really, what it provides for you is the move speed and the gold. And the gold is the big one. The move speed is not to be underestimated if you're in a chasing situation. But the gold is what makes this hero so strong and even a worthwhile pick in competitive play. Okay, so with all that being said, we're going to actually jump into this game. I'm going to put on my headphones so I can hear the audio. Man, that's weird. When I have like these headphones that that you know, like they're surround headphones, I guess. Like they close off the audio, so it just feels really weird to hear my voice with them on. But I'll get used to it. Okay, so we'll talk about skill builds a little bit more afterwards. I do want to dive into the replay. And then if we have time later, we can talk about skill builds. But generally, you're going to want to max Janata. I like to get 2 points in Shuriken by level 5 for that bonus 200 burst damage. And then you want to get at least 2 points in Shadow Walk after that, so that you have the cooldown longer than the duration. But beyond that, you're pretty much just going to be maxing Janata and then maxing Shadow Walk. Get track whenever you can. Not if you're in a lane and you want to dominate that lane. You can max Janata and Shadow Walk ASAP, only get track at 6, and only get points in Shriek and Toss if you need to cancel TPs, like let's say you're laning against a Prophet, or something like that. But generally, that will be the skill build. So, without any further delay, let's jump into the game. Our hero for today will be Jane West.
Prepare for battle.
He is a good friend of mine from a community I frequent, and we'll have to see how he does. But for the moment, he's going to be playing Bounty Hunter. We're going to fast forward ahead until the creeps actually spawn, and then we'll talk a little bit about a few things that we're noticing off the bat.
The battle begins.
When does he do it? Okay. Already, this is a major no-no, especially in the suicide lane. You never want to level Shriek and Toss unless you need to do so. The only time I could ever think of it being an issue is if you catch a Prophet at level 1 as a team and you're trying to get first blood and somehow he has teleport picked up. Aside from that, there's just nothing that you'll need to cancel at level 1. And the damage, the amount that it costs you in terms of mana versus how much damage it gives you, not nearly as efficient as something like Shadow Walk. Also, it doesn't make you invis, so if you have to solo a lane or if you're up against a bad lane, this is not going to help keep you alive. Shadow Walk will. So already, 0 minutes in and we're seeing some problems. And we're going to see the problems they do progress. So, if we skip ahead to about 30 seconds in, you'll notice the creeps are pushed into the tower, and inexplicably, our friend Jane, or is that Janye? Janye West? I guess it would be Janye. That would make more sense, although it's very strange. Yeah, Janye, Kanye. I get it now. Either way, what you're going to notice is that the creeps are at the tower, and he's not in the XP range. You're going to see he has 0 experience right now. This is another major no-no. When you're in the suicide lane, he's got some backup here in the Twin-Headed Dragon, but they're still in a lane that can be pulled, will be pulled, as you can see from Earthshaker here. You absolutely must get every single point of experience that you possibly can. Missing even 1 creep is a big mistake, especially this early, and especially if you go for Shriek and Toss, because that means no Shadow Walk if you ever get ganked, if you ever need to back up. If Earthshaker comes in, hits a good fissure, and Bounty Hunter gets trapped, he could actually die early on. Now it turns out that probably won't be the case, but make sure that you stay in experience range. Even if you're not actually last-hitting the creeps, you can position yourself over in the trees over here, up here, so many places to go, and if you're in Shadow Walk form, well, then you're absolutely fine. You can just stand wherever the hell you'd like. So, we unpause, we will skip ahead just a little bit. The next thing I want to point out to you guys is around that 2-minute mark. So for the moment, it's a 2v2 lane, but remember, we're still in the suicide lane. The typical things you've probably heard from other sources still apply. You really want to ward the pole camp. Something cute you can do as Bounty Hunter if you're not going to ward that pole camp, which we see Earthshaker is exploiting right now to its fullest potential. is you can also just body block it with your hero, and this works especially well when you're an invis hero like Bounty Hunter. So something else for you to keep in mind that I would like to have seen him do is either ward it or just body block as much as possible. I like what he's going to do now. He's going to go in and try and harass the pole camp, try and get some of these creeps. Now, because you're invis, you're in a good position to try and last hit these. Inexplicably, he's not going to do so. He's going to try and fight Earthshaker. Now, let's just pause right now. Look at where they're fighting. They have no creep backup. It's a level 2 Jakiro, a level 2 Bounty Hunter. And just Jakiro has Liquid Fire, which I wouldn't recommend getting this and Icy Path as your first 2 skills, but that's another story for another day. They are not very strong right now. They're tanking 5 creeps. One just died. That was the 6th. Earthshaker's already level 3. He did just use this fissure. But Anti-Mage is in the area, and he could always show up. And we're going to see, this gets a lot worse. You want to be very careful about choosing your spots when you be aggressive, especially in the offlane. Sure, it's a 2v2. But again, level 3 Earthshaker, Anti-Mage about to hit level 3. They already have a significant level advantage. No points in Janata, which is really your best way to kill heroes early, is to slow them and get a couple more auto attacks. So he's going to try and force the issue anyway. And we're going to see that's a big mistake. Another Shadow Walk is used. The chase continues. He's also not doing a great job of chasing here. Twin-Headed Dragon rather foolishly comes in, and there's another thing I'd like to talk about. You never want to use Shriek and Toss unless it's going to get you a kill or really be a significant form of harassment. This is level 1. Look at how it scales. For 25 more mana at level 2, you get 100 more damage. And this is a huge chunk of his mana pool, 90 out of 299. It's about a third, and he's using it 2 minutes in, doing barely 100 damage. He's also using it at absolute max range, which means he's not going to get a kill out of this. And so he's just throwing it in. Now he's wasted his Shadow Walk. He's out of Shadow Walk. And that's something I should mention about Shadow Walk. The first thing that you do after Shadow Walk removes it. So if you auto-attack, you get this bonus damage. If, however, is the same as Shadow Blade in that regard. If, however, you Shriek and Toss coming out of it, then you don't get the bonus damage from Shadow Walk. You also don't get the extra auto-attack off. And so you're not being efficient. With Bounty Hunter, these sort of little things will add up. He's a hero that has to do everything right to get the early kills. So, they've overextended. Look how many creeps there are right now. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 creeps. And they're actually blocked in, and the Shadow Walk's on cooldown. He barely finds a gap. He's going to escape. Unfortunately, his lane mate, not going to be so lucky. And I do have to criticize the Twin-Headed Dragon here for chasing that far. Even more so than Janye West. Because at least the Janye West has his invisibility. So this is going to be first blood. Nope. Just kidding. The Shockwave's going to steal it. Unlucky for our Dire heroes. Very, very lucky for Janye West and his friend. So my big point here, that big concept is, especially early on, respect the creeps. Show them the love and respect that they deserve. Don't try and fight under 9 creeps. Don't try and dive an Earthshaker and an Anti-Mage this early. And look what's going on right now. Look at how many creeps there are. What is this, 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 creeps. And look what Johnny's going to try and do. Shadow Walk's on cooldown. Don't forget that. It's on cooldown. He has no way to escape right now. He's tanking a ton of creeps, taking the bottom burn damage as well. And finally, Earthshaker is out of mana. No, he's got the fissure. But you're going to get first blood. That's your first blood, picked up by Earthshaker. Especially in this offlane, you've got to respect the creeps. And the reason I say especially the offlane is this. When you're in the offlane, your opponents can pull. And especially if they're not stacking before pulling and they're not double pulling, here's what happens. You send 4 creeps in here with Earthshaker. Earthshaker and those 4 creeps kill these couple of creeps off. There's anywhere from 2 to 4 left. Usually probably 2 or 3. Then the next wave comes. So then there's another set of 4 creeps charging in. So suddenly what would be a wave of 4 is going to be 6 or 7 creeps, all grouped up together. Then there's going to be one more clash. That next wave is going to come. By the time they get to your tower, it's 11 or 12. This only happens in the lane that's pulling. It doesn't really happen in the off lane. You'll see a wave build up, but not to this degree, not this early. So in the off lane, you really, really need to respect the creeps. You need to respect the amount of damage they can do. And frankly, look how much he's going to miss out on. We said there were 11 creeps. Now we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's missed probably 4 or 5 worth of experience, and he's going to continue to miss more. Plus, he just gave up first blood, which, by the way, Educator died. So a lot of things go wrong. He comes back. There's another wave coming in. 5 creeps this time because it includes a catapult. And again, the Shriek and Toss at max range first. This is a finishing spell. You don't use it to initiate unless you're expecting to use 2 in a chase, but that's pretty uncommon. And still he continues to chase. Really nice Icy Path there. But we're going to see it's not enough. It's just not enough. Another Shrieking Toss. He's a little bit unlucky. He might have been able to get this kill. But lest we forget, there were 5 creeps at the tower. They're now all mostly dead. The other wave, fortunately for him, it followed. So he didn't miss out on these 4 melee creeps in the range. But he missed out on the catapult as well, which is a lot of gold, a lot of experience. This might sound like nitpicking, guys, but look at the levels right now. He's level 3. Anti-Mage actually is quite under-leveled because he's been chasing a lot, not really farming. He should be more like 4 or 5, but Earthshaker almost hitting level 5 already. Twin-Headed Dragon only 2, and he's about to feed. This is one of those situations where Johnny OS would be better off soloing this lane. Unfortunately, he's not. So we unpause, and we will continue. Our next time that we're going to be looking towards this level is that 6-minute mark for Johnny OS. So he's only died the one time. He's going to still get experience now. All is not lost for our hero. Although, again, he's tanking a lot of creep damage. As a melee hero especially, you really want to be careful about this. He's blowing through all his regen. Doesn't need to be. Remember, this is the lane with the ranged hero, the one with the twin-headed dragon. But they both insist on fighting under the creeps, and so Anti-Mage's like, okay, I'll come in and threaten to kill you. So we're going all the way up to 6 minutes. And we'll see, just some blows being traded. In this situation where you can farm, your focus should be on getting those last hits. Again, stop trying to get kills early. Now here he opts for a boots and a magic wand. I really dislike this choice, especially in this lane. You'll get a couple of charges. Fissure is not spammable. Blink is reasonably spammable, but Anti-Mage won't be spamming it. He's only going to be using it at certain times. Bottle in this case would be so much better. If you had a bottle, you'd have full mana, you'd have full HP. Sure, you don't have the boots to chase, but really, you don't need boots as badly on Bounty Hunter early on because he can just walk up to his opponent's invis. Also, because they're in a dual lane, he can freely check this top rune. Now, there's no rune here. It didn't happen to be one for the 6-minute mark. Happened to be bottom. But this is what Bounty Hunter wants to do. Once he starts getting those core items up, start checking runes, start looking for ganks. He's not 6 yet, so it's not really the best time to gank. But the bottle really would offer more in the lane. So I dislike this item choice. I don't think it's optimal. But again, not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. And now we're going to skip ahead to 750 on the replay time.
Under attack.
Alright, so a little bit of harassment here. Just some blows being traded.
Middle tower is under attack.
Now we're going to see, he finally leaves the lane. I love this. The rune's about to spawn at 8 minutes. I'm not sure if that's why he went. But, oh hey, it's Earthshaker. Free kill. Free kill, right guys? Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Spoiled it. My bad.
Radiant's middle tower.
I'm pressing the wrong hotkeys on my keyboard here. Damn it. It's gonna be so good. I meant to pause it there. Alright. So, it's not quite right. Alright, this is where he goes in. Look closely at Shadow Walk. It's on cooldown right now. If he comes out on auto attacks, it's going to be 5 seconds before he can get it off. Earthshaker doesn't know he's here. If he did, he wouldn't be standing here. This is a free kill. It would also be a free kill if he had 2 points in Shrieking Toss, which, by the way, I think that's much better than getting 2 points in Janata and Shadow Walk. You can opt for 2 in one of these, but getting 2 in both is a big mistake to me, because that extra 100 damage, way more significant than a slightly more bonus damage. Slightly more Shadow Walk damage, or the cooldown's going down. Either way, though, if he just waits here, if he's patient, he will get the kill. Unfortunately, he's not. Auto attacks with 4 seconds to go, and then the even bigger blunder, use a Shrieking Toss right away. This is a spell that has a range to it, so you want to use it when they're running away as the finisher. Again, not to initiate, not to do early damage, unless you know you're going to chase them down, which he's not. Use it as that finisher spell. So, unfortunately, he's not going to get the kill. I know, this guy looks low. The other thing I want to point out is I don't think he didn't click on Earthshaker there, and if he did, he would have seen the boots, as well as the bottle, which would just be a dead giveaway Earthshaker's waiting for the rune, and also a dead giveaway that it's not going to be easy to get this kill. So we're 8-10 in, he's still level 5, he's pretty far off from 6, he's going to salve up, I guess he didn't see the regen rune even though he had vision of it. Starts to head towards bottom, kind of roaming around aimlessly here, and let's actually take stock of how long it's been. He started heading down towards that rune around the 7:30 mark, it's now 8:50, and we're going to get all the way up to around 9 minutes before anything happens. He's gotten like 1 creep of experience during this time. Guys, he was almost level 6. If you're a bounty hunter, the most important thing you can do is get level 6 and get your core items and levels up as quickly as possible. But 6 is the big one, because that's when you get track, the minus armor, the move speed. This spell does like 20 things in one. I mean, it's actually only about 5. But it does a lot. This is an ultimate that's essential to get as quickly as possible. And he's delayed it by about a minute and a half. If he had gotten that kill, he would have had 6, so it would have worked out a lot better then. But even then, I'm not sure it's worth delaying it that long to check there. So, he's going to get the kill here. Now he gets 6. Now the real fun begins for Bounty Hunter. So again, he's still opting. We'll see what he does at 7, but still opting not to level up Shriek and Toss. I gotta reiterate, one more time, it's so good to get 2 levels in this. The one exception I would say is if you're just gonna be 1v1 in a lane, you know you're not leaving for a while, you know your team doesn't want you or need you to gank. It's kind of weird to pick Bounty Hunter then, but I have seen it in pro games sometimes. If that's the case, and you think you can actually dominate the lane, then you can level up Janata and Shadow Walk just for extra lane control, because Shadow Walk is a lot more spammable, Janata doesn't cost mana. But aside from that very unique situation, just not getting 2 points of this pretty early is definitely going to be less effective for doing damage. So, as soon as Earthshaker runs in and auto-attacks him, fissures him, he will track him there. Now, I would say, you really want to track immediately. Pretty much anytime you see an enemy hero, you want to track them. Now, the only exception would be is if there's another more important hero that you're trying to track, like a Sand King who can go invis, a Riki who can do the same, a hero who's about to die. But generally, whenever you see a hero, track them immediately. This also starts it not only tracks that hero, it starts the cooldown so you can use it on the next hero just a little bit quicker. So we're 10 and a half minutes in. He's going to go ganking again. And let's just look at the map right now. What is he going to accomplish here? This is a level 6 Bounty Hunter against a level 10 Viper. Viper's at full health, full HP. Doesn't have his ult, doesn't really need it. Level 6 Bounty Hunter with boots and a wand. Yeah, he's not killing this Viper by himself. Is there anybody in support? Enigma just died mid, so he's not going to be there for at least a couple of seconds. He certainly wasn't going to be there when Bounty Hunters start heading mid. Top lane, we have Twin-Headed Dragon. He's not going to get there anytime soon. There's no Prophet on the field. There is nobody else to help with this gank. Not to mention, by the way, PA and Undying, not the strongest hero killers early on. You do want to go for kills as Bounty Hunter. That is your goal. But you have to be efficient about it. This movement around the map is very, very inefficient. Let's actually look at the overall hero levels in the game. He's level 6, almost bottom of the barrel in a dual lane, up against a double melee dual lane. Now the kills against them certainly hurt them. The fact that he's been roaming around so much, though, that's the big one. And that early creep or 2 that he missed early on, coming back to bite him a little bit. So again, go for ganks, look for kills once you hit 6, but only when the opportunities are there. And we're going to see he really forces the issue. And I think for a lot of Bounty Hunter players, this is a common mistake, is they feel compelled to try and make something happen. Now for the item choice, he goes for Ring of Health, and I really dislike this unless you know you're going to stay in lane. Bottle is just so much better. Again, you get mana out of it. It's more burst regen. You're Bounty Hunter, so you're likely to be ganky. You can easily check the runes and do so safely with Invis. Something else I want to point out here, again, he is initiating not with the right click out of Shadow Walk, but with track. And while they probably wouldn't get this kill anyway, that's something you want to get in the habit of doing. Just make sure you right click first and then track. The only reason not to is if someone's about to die and you just want to make sure you get the bonus gold. And we're going to see they force the issue mid, they come in at the wrong time, Echo Slam from a Hasten Earthshaker, and they get the kill. And well, things are just not looking good for Earthshaker. Not at all. Fortunately, the Eidolons are Imba. The Eidolons get a double kill. And everything works out okay, but none of those were really track kills. I mean, one of them might have been, but it was certainly an accidental track kill if it was. Not what you're hoping to do as Bounty Hunter. So now we skip ahead again, this time to 13-10. Okay, so this is good. This is what you want to do. Track to initiate. The Shriekin being used again. Level 1 Shriekin, honestly, not even worth casting unless it will definitely get you a kill. But the fact that he tracks there first, very, very good stuff. I love to see that. And here comes the chase. Track to help the team chase. Earthshaker runs in dangerously close, then runs away. And if he had a bottle right now, Johnny West could easily be at full health, full mana. Maybe play a little more aggressively, but honestly, you're not tower diving an Earthshaker, you're not tower diving a Viper. Not with these kind of odds. This is that time where you want to go back and look to farm. As strong of a ganker as Bounty Hunter is, if they're just camping at their tower as a group, they're probably not getting kills. But here we go. He's going to try and force it again. Still spamming that level 1 Shriekin. Seriously, man, this doesn't do any damage. Now, we've all made these mistakes before. Johnny West did volunteer to be my guinea pig for today, so big thanks to him for doing so. He's looking for the backstab, not watching the fight. Camera position again an issue here. Something we see a lot with the newer players.
Radiant's
So now he
bottom
comes
tower
in.
is under attack.
He shadow walks again instead of tracking first and then shadow walking. Now track first. Remember, track gives you everybody bonus move speed and a wide AoE, 900 to be exact. Might have helped one of these heroes to get away. Maybe not. At least not be fissure blocked. And then here's the big blunder. Comes out of Invis, Shadow Walk and cooldown, level 1 Shriek and Toss being used, and he's trying to kill the Anti-Mage, who, by the way, in case you haven't heard, is pretty damn hard to kill. Not the correct target here. If you want to target anyone, I would say go for the Crystal Maiden. Sure, Anti-Mage is low, but he's got Blink, and you gotta figure he's just gonna blink away. But the key thing here, initiating without having Shadow Walk ready. What you want to do, once it hits level 2, wait until it's about to wear off, wait until the cooldown is available, right-click once, then Shadow Walk again. If you want to track in between, that's great. Failing to do so, big mistake. And the final point I want to make, which we have not seen Johnny OS really do at all, you got to check your opponent's inventory constantly as Bounty Hunter. Because once they start buying detection, once they have sentry wards, that you need to know about that. And like, for example, if we see Crystal Maiden here has she has 1 sentry ward in her inventory, and she just showed up in the lane, guess what? She probably just placed one in the lane. And if she's playing really aggressively, well, she's probably trying to bait you into that sentry ward. So no, she's not an easy kill. But the only way that you know that is if you check the inventories, which he hasn't really done. This is how you find out when they have detection, and that's when you know that you have to play more carefully. In this case, well, he's trying to fight 4v1, and he's just way under level. This is not going to work out. Anyway, poor Johnny West is going to take a spill in the end. So, this was our sort of new Bounty Hunter player, an experienced Bounty Hunter player. Now let's look at somebody who is by no means Dendy, but certainly plays Bounty Hunter, I would say, a little bit more optimally in the offlane. And please don't make me restart my Dota right now. Please don't make me restart my Dota right now. Okay. Valve. I guess Valve didn't get the memo that I'm doing the show today, so there you go. Alright, so we're going to have to restart Dota, guys. I apologize, but the patch was just released. I see a little debate in the chat about phase boots versus power treads, and I would say they both are decent choices. Phase boots will give you a little bit more burst damage, which is great to combo up with Janata. It can be helpful for chasing, although again you can't use them while you're Shadow Walked, it's going to reveal them. So they can be a good choice. Now the problem for them is that Bounty Hunter is already very squishy, and you're getting a pair of boots that don't give you any HP. So if you go for something like that, you will want to supplement it with a drum, a bracer, a vitality booster to help compensate. And they won't scale as well towards the late game. And sometimes Bounty Hunter is a hero that will be required to do damage. I'd say, especially in pub games, you don't have to be the hard carry, but being able to contribute some damage will help. And well, generally speaking, power treads are going to give you more. Now, the nice thing about phase boots comboing with track is that you're really fast. So I would say they're both legitimate. The other nice thing about power treads is that you can micro them to maximize your bottle charges. And again, Bounty Hunter is a fantastic candidate for the bottle. Even if you're not getting Rune's Bottle Crow, you can still be very effective. Some trolls in the chat tonight. Okay, I'm restarting Steam. I would not say Bottle is an absolute must. I just think he's one of the best heroes to carry it. I suppose if you're not going to get Bottle, you could go for the Tranquil Boot Soul Ring build. Now, the downside of that is it doesn't give you any damage on your boots, it doesn't give you any attack speed, and Bounty Hunter is, to some degree, a physical damage dealer. That's good for laning, the Tranquil Soul Ring. You'll see some pros just go for like Magic Wand and Vanguard, but then they rely a lot on just going to, like, be very effective with their initial gank, because the thing is, if a gank fails, now you have to go back to base before you can start that next gank, because you really will run out of mana quickly. So I'd say there are other options, but I really just think the Bottle is by far the best choice. Once in a while, especially in pub games, I think Perseverance is okay if you know you're going to be able to sit in lane, but it's just so damn expensive. For 1,800 gold, you could have a drum for that money, plus 9 to all of your stats, and the move speed to boot, which, by the way, synergizes fantastically with the track, with the phase boots if you get them, and just generally with Bounty Hunter as a hero who needs the HP, needs the mana. So yeah, I would say Bottle, and then you can go into the more useful utility things like the drums and the Vanguard and that sort of stuff. Yes, Battle Fury does splash the Janata crit. Just like with, similar to Kunkka with his Tidebringer. Any crits you get will splash. Oh, Dota, don't troll me like this. Don't troll me like this. Play game. Launch game as soon as it's ready. Woo! Alright. So, while we have a moment here, how is everybody doing today? Is everyone happy? Is everyone learning something? They're not the Purge gamer background posters, new meta. They are Valve's posters, it turns out. Some silly comments in the chat. So the new microphone sounds the same, guys? Is that the case? I can't put it in my mouth, man. Then I can't see my monitor. What are you talking about? Also, that sounds incredibly uncomfortable. I don't want a microphone in my mouth. Or right in front of it. Oh, man. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this casting business. Or this talking into a microphone business, for that matter. Edible microphones. That's what I need. Alright, looks like Dota 2 is back in, so let's see if we can get this underway. I have no idea how I got this thing in front of my face and still see my monitor. Although that is perhaps something I'll have to look into later. No, we're good to go, guys. Okay, we're jumping back into the game now. Thanks for your patience. And whenever it loads, we'll get back under what... Oh, is that the wrong one? I think that's the wrong one. No, okay, this is the right one. Good. Oops, that was too far ahead. Okay, so our hero for today is none other than Radical. He's going to be playing Bounty Hunter, and this time we're going to see Bounty Hunter soloing in the offlane. Now, I think if you're going to put Bounty Hunter in the offlane, generally it's better just to solo him rather than putting a support there. Like we saw last game, the Twin-Head Dragon didn't do much. The Jakiro wasn't very effective. And he could have been more effective. He could have at least not fed, but really he doesn't offer too much to lane. And the thing about Bounty Hunter is when you put him in the offlane, you're doing so to get him the quick levels and let him hit 6 as soon as possible. And you're also doing it because he can live there. You're not really putting him there to farm. You're not putting him there to get kills early on because he's just not good at it early on. So I really prefer to see him soloing in the offlane.
Denied.
Either way, here we go with Radical. Off the bat, I just want to point out a few things they're noticing. Is that 0 minutes in, so even before the creep spawn, he had already opted for Shadow Walk. And again, this is almost always going to be the correct choice in that offlane. Rubik is off the map. Rubik is stacking and pulling. Much safer to go for this. Much safer to go for it. And also, it's going to be more useful even if you want to last hit or harass. Because if you don't have it, then what happens when you try to walk up to the creep wave? Anti-mage starts hitting you. Rubik might come in and try to gank you. And even if you don't die, you take a lot of damage. So we're going to move ahead a little bit here, try up to about 150, and I just want you to look at how Radical is positioning himself in the lane. Staying pretty far back from the creep wave. Shadowwalk's about to end, that's when he goes in, trying for the last hits, but otherwise, not trying to trade blows with this anti-mage, who just hit level 2, has mana burn. This is a very smart choice. Really well played by Radical. It's a small thing, really. But even if this was just a 1v1, Bounty Hunter cannot take anti-mage early on, because he needs his mana to Shadowwalk, and he needs to rely on Janata to do auto-attack damage, whereas Anti-Mage can just auto-attack anytime, and it hits pretty hard. So Radical finding the last hits where he can. He's going to go for a third one here, I believe, and then he's going to be forced back. Notice how whenever the Shadow Walk is on cooldown, He stays far back. He's not aggressive. In that case, I probably would have let that first creep that he went for go and then go for the second one. But that's really nitpicking. The key here is he knows he can't win this lane, especially because Rubik is missing and can show up at any time. So he's playing the matchup properly. He's understanding the matchup, which is something I talked about last week in the Earthshaker Lady analysis in a big way. And we're going to move ahead here to about 3 minutes in, and then I have my next point I want to make. Again, notice how he's staying back. He's just trying for the safe last hits. Yeah, he only has 3. That's pretty awful farm, right? But it's better than nothing, and he's not losing too much health. He's just surviving for now, getting levels where he can. So we're going to move ahead to 3 minutes in. 3 minutes on the replay timer. And here we are. So my point, I guess the additional point I want to make, you know, it's not just about getting the levels, it's not just about surviving. His goal in this lane, whenever you throw Bounty Hunter to the off lane more than any other hero who goes there, I would say, is your job isn't to win the lane. Like, nobody expects Bounty Hunter to go down to this bottom lane and dominate an anti-mage 1v1, let alone dominate an anti-mage with a support Rubik who's pulling 1v1. That's not his job. That's not his goal. His job here is to get levels to survive and to minimize the amount he loses the lane by. Now, if your opponent is absolutely horrible, yeah, maybe you can win the lane. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be that bad. His goal, again, is just to minimize those losses, which we're seeing Radical do a fantastic job at so far. He's not farming particularly well. He almost has enough money for his bottle. And I think especially in this lane, that is a fantastic item selection. If you're ever solo on the Suicide lane, especially for the Dire, because this bottom rune takes longer to check, for both lanes actually, especially for the Radiant squad, what you can do is go check the bottom rune for your team when it's about to spawn. If you have a bottle and the rune's there, you get it. Meanwhile, your mid lane goes, well, by the way, this mid lane Morph lane, don't know who he is, but he's getting owned by Sandcake. Yeah, this is me, by the way. That Morphlane is me. And I feed rather shamefully to the Sankey multiple times, Caustic Finale just a little bit too strong. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, I can go check top rune, and he can check bottom. So I really like the bottle pickup in the off lane, especially on the Dire side, because bottom rune is a little bit harder to get to. Either way, he's almost got the gold for the bottle. So if this is me, that's going to be the item I'm saving for. Just one more last hit is all he needs. He's missing last hits, but again, we're looking at these big, broad concepts of just how are you playing the matchup, how are you playing the hero, what is your goal in this lane. So last time we talked a lot about respecting the creeps. Actually, oh, sorry, I skipped that part. I'm actually going to go back just a hair here. Let's talk about something else. So, look at the creep wave right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 2 heroes. Or 8. Did I miss one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 creeps, plus 2 heroes. Notice how he's not trying to fight right now. He doesn't actually have mana for Shadow Walk, a doubly good reason not to do so. He's respecting the creeps. He's running away. He's not fighting. Sure, he's under his own tower, but the 7 creeps plus 2 heroes, plus Mana Bird and the nukes from Rubik, that can be enough to kill him. So, again, especially in this offlane, you really do need to respect the power of the creeps. And again, when you're in the offlane, they're gonna stack up if your opponents are pulling. So, smart play here from Radical. And a big difference from what we saw last game. So we go ahead to 450. I want to talk a little bit about how you deal with a hero like Bounty Hunter in the offlane from the opposing perspective. And talk about how Radical's kind of getting out easy. So he goes for the boots, which is okay. I think offlane boots are fine, especially if you're up against someone like a Venomancer, who's being aggressive, who's putting down sentry wards, because that'll help you run away, and a bottle's not going to help you run away. But in this situation, I think the bottle is preferable. Either way, not a big deal at all. But the big point here is, what is Rubik really doing to try and harass Radical? Radical's already level 4, almost hitting 5. And we look at Anti-Mage, he's farming well. Rubik's getting some decent farms, some decent levels. They're getting farm and levels, but they're doing nothing to shut down Bounty Hunter, and they're not killing him. They really could have done so. If Rubik had bought a pair of Sentry Wards and placed them in the lane, he doesn't even have to kill him. Anti-Mage can just zone him out. So maybe you put a Sentry Ward here, and then a Sentry Ward something like here. And then for the most part, this Bounty Hunter will never be safe to leave his tower. The other thing you can do is just walk up, park yourself in between the creep and the hero, just auto-attack, harass. Now you need Sentry Wards to do this. Otherwise, Bounty Hunter can just wind walk, come up right next to you, and hit you a lot harder than you can do. But having those Sentry Wards, and especially with the Anti-Mage's backup, you can zone the Bounty Hunter out of the lane, just create an area where it's not safe for him to be. Yeah, right around there. So he's not doing that. But Radical also is just taking advantage, and this is the beauty of Bounty Hunter in the lane, is you need those sentry wards to zone him out. You don't need sentry wards to zone out a Windrunner. You don't need them to zone out most other offlane heroes. Those other heroes have their strengths. You know, Windrunner's range. She does good range damage. She has Windrunner if she gets into trouble. But being invisible means that no matter what, they have to spend money if they want to really shut you down. So that's a little bit about how you might want to deal with the Bounty Hunter, and you know how Radical's sort of getting lucky, and also how this hero is just good. One of his unique strengths at handling the offlane position. So we're gonna fast forward to 520. Okay, we're right there now. Perfect. I talked about how Radical's respecting the creep wave. I want to even go further and talk about where he's farming. We see he's only farming when he's near his tower, and occasionally he'll go for one creep when the wave isn't there. Now, earlier he's being a little more aggressive. That's when he had more mana. That's when the Rubik wasn't here. But notice how now, when the Rubik is here, when the Anti-Mage has more levels, the Anti-Mage has gone for 3 points of mana burn. Very aggressive build, which I think is the correct way to play this matchup. But notice how Radical is only farming under his own tower. Even goes for the deny here. Not going to get it. Kind of narrowly missing there in the end. But that's the beauty of having a hero like Bounty Hunter. Go for the last hit. If you miss it, then just win walk away. No problems there. So farming at your tower, especially if they're going to pull, that's going to push the wave. This is one of the weaknesses of Bounty Hunter as an offlaner. He can't really stop the push. We can see this lane isn't really a strong pushing lane. There's no Leshrac. There's not multiple AoE nukes. But just being able to pull freely, that's really going to shut things down. And it would be nice if one of his supports awarded the camp. Of course, that's where Rubik could look to deward it, but it's something we could see from his team. The Bounty Hunter could buy the Observer wards, but that really puts him far behind, so I wouldn't recommend that too often. So now we fast forward to 7 minutes into the game. And nothing is happening at this time. I just want to talk about the state of the game right now, and specifically what Radical has accomplished during this time. And you might see, oh, 19 creeps, he hasn't done anything, man. That's less than 3 creeps per minute. That's horrible. Radical is a bad player. He is a big noob. I could do a lot better. Well, you might be able to do a little bit better if you're Dendy or if you're a good player. But the point is, it's 7 minutes in. He's hit level 6. By the way, lest you all forget, we had a dual lane offlane Bounty Hunter who had a lot more opportunities to farm. The lane was only being pulled occasionally. Probably could have had a kill in the Earthshaker as well. Almost a full minute and a half later, despite having the support of the Twin-Headed Dragon, he wasn't even 6. Radical also has his phase boots at this point, which if you're going to go for something after your boots besides a bottle, I think this is the best choice. Upgraded boots of some kind, very cost efficient, or maybe a bracer and a magic wand, but upgraded magic stick, not as good. 7 minutes in, Radical hasn't died. He's gotten track. Now, we haven't talked about the skill build. And I'm actually going to say I don't like the skill build too much. This is good to lane. Shadow Walk and Janata this is good for a lane that you can dominate. The problem is, you can't dominate Anti-Mage 1v1 as a melee hero, especially not as Bounty Hunter. It's just not going to happen. The weakness of this build is you don't have the burst damage of Shriek and Toss. And if you're going to be off-lane Bounty Hunter in a difficult matchup, which this certainly is, I think you're much better off getting 2 points in Shriek and Toss, getting 1 or 2 in each of Janata, as well as Shadow Walk. Whichever one you want to do is sort of preference, ultimately. I think they're both pretty decent. This gives you a little more burst. This allows you to spam Shadow Walk a little bit more and use it twice. Or make sure that you can use it twice in an engagement pretty safely. But either way, I don't like the skill build, but the big point is that he's hit 6, he hasn't died, he has the basic items up. That is really what we want to focus on. Because that's ultimately, those are your main objectives as Bounty Hunter. Don't die, get your levels, and try and get whatever farm you can safely. You're not expected to win the lane, you're not expected to dominate it. In rare matchups, you might be able to do so. Now, the nice thing about this build, and I will credit it for this, much better at harassing in lane. So as long as he sits bottom, and by the way, notice how he uses that track right away, not just when the enemy goes on him. Gives you that move speed to let you close the gap. Also just lets you hit a little bit harder with the 1- armor. So we're 7.5 minutes in. This is that point in the game where your solo mid Morphling somehow losing to a Sand King. Boy, how embarrassing is that? But either way, I'm just shamelessly bottle crowing. Radical's going to come in to try and set something up. And he's not going to be effective, right? We're going to even fast forward a while here, and he's not going to find any kills. And well, you might be saying, well, he's wasting his time, he's not being efficient. The difference this game, the big difference this game is that A, his team needs the help a lot more, and B, he is trying to choose his spots wisely. Notice how when he's going to gank top, he thought about mid, but there's nothing there. So he heads top, where we have 1-2 heroes, plus a jungler available. Remember last game we saw Bounty Hunter tried to solo gank a Viper? And then Enigma TP's in, and so it sort of looks okay, but they ultimately end up feeding. This is where you want to gank his Bounty Hunter. Going all, even if it's all the way to the offlane, you waste a minute walking up there. Guess what? You're guaranteed to get this kill. So much backup coming in. Tidehunter Naga. And the more heroes here at the point of attack, everybody's going to get some track hold. Let's actually count how many people do. As we see Phasms having 274. He gets it. Tidehunter gets it. I think this guy's out of range. But all in all, how much extra gold is that? Let's actually look. 150 for the Bounty Hunter. 50 more for the two allies that are in range. That's 250 bonus gold. Radical is up to 700 gold here after just having enough to complete his phase boots. And maybe 100 gold in the bank a minute or two ago. Sure, he's not farming. Sure, Anti-Mage is getting free farm. Now, ideally, what you want to have happen is someone rotates down here when the Bounty Hunter leaves the lane so that you're not just wasting that lane and giving away total free farm. The lineup this game wasn't really the best to do that. We didn't have anyone who could really face off well against Anti-Mage. Maybe Tidehunter if he'd gone for Anchor Smash early on. But either way, the key point here is when he's ganking, it's effective. He's doing it where there are allies to back him up, and he's getting a kill. Because every kill you get with Bounty Hunter, and that's really 2 kills right there. An extra 250 gold. In terms of gold, that's basically 2 kills for the team. Sure, Bounty Hunter gets most of it, but that's no big deal. So we're going to fast forward ahead 10 minutes in, and then I just want you to pay attention while we're doing so. Watch where his camera is. Now, not so much where it's paused, but I do, compared to Pyrian Flax from last week, I love the fact that Radical is checking items, not alt-tabbing out of the game. This is going to help you to win the game when you know what's going on with your whole team. But as we fast forward, as he starts to run away from top, he gets the bottle. I love the fact he went back for it. Again, I think it's just the best regen item for Bounty Hunter. For all the reasons I expressed before, but just keep an eye on the map. Keep an eye on this camera. While he's running back to base, he's checking top, looking for kill opportunities, waiting for that courier, which unfortunately someone stole at top, so he's got to walk all the way back to get it. But continuously scanning top, watching his team move around, looking for opportunities. Bounty Hunter is like a global ganker in the sense that you can gank anywhere at any time because you have invis, because you don't need that much farm. But in order to set up these ganks, you need to know what's going on, clicking on enemy heroes, seeing where they are in the lane. Unfortunately, the team is a bunch of idiots, and they go in way before Bounty Hunter gets here. And while the creep wave is pushing, guess what? That's not going to work unless your opponent's really bad. I'm just kidding, I'm friends with all these guys. They're not actually idiots. But it's not the best time to go in. Still, he's biding his time, he's being patient here. Now we fast forward again to about 12 minutes in. Well, I could even do it before now. Did you guys see the second that someone reveals themselves, immediately they get tracked? And now what happens is, did that track wear off? I guess it wore off already. Really? Thought he tracked someone. What the hell? Did I see track it used? Regeneration. Alright, this is gonna drive me crazy. I gotta see what happened there. Oh, maybe the vision just doesn't work. When you're paused. Okay, so he tracks Rubik, and then let's see why are we not getting vision for this? What the hell? The Dire. It says he's tracked. Oh, maybe it's just a replay bug. Sorry. Either way, the point is that should give vision, which means now there are 3 heroes that can't safely leave their tower. That's why I wanted to point out the vision. Because, yeah, that track gives you everything. It lets you know where all the opponents are. Either way, he's got to have vision because they're tracked, so that must be a replay bug. Either way, tracking everything's so important to do. And again, the sooner you track one opponent, the sooner it will cool down to track the next. And with the bottle, that will it will fuel your track spam, which it gets pretty costly. 70 mana, but spamming it over and over can add up pretty quickly. So we're back to player perspective, we're back to Radical, and we're back inside the game. So we go ahead, let's skip ahead to 12 minutes in, which we're almost at right now. He's going to TP bottom, and I think the reason for this is we were discussing how Anti-Mage has been left alone bottom. Maybe need to gank him. Also, the rune had just spawned bottom, so he's going to try and contest that. Unfortunately, not going to get there in time, but again, tracking an enemy here as soon as you see them, very important thing to do. More importantly, is it's not just anyone here. This is a Sand King who was fed early, who's got a lot of farm, who even, I think, has a Blink Dagger. Yeah, he does. He has Blink, Arcane Boots, and a bottle. Very, very important target to track. Whenever the enemy has a strong ganking hero, like a Pudge, a Night Stalker, a Riki, especially anyone who's invis, but especially those strong gankers, tracking, I don't know, tracking a Broodmother is nice, but not as important. She's less likely to be getting kills early, more interested in pushing. But tracking these strong gankers is so crucial to protect your team, to let them know if they're coming. As long as that Sand King is tracked, he can't really gank it. He's got his Blink, but if he does, we're going to know he's coming. So we fast forward again. Notice Radical isn't getting too many kills, but track is also a form of harassment, because as long as you have that vision, you have to be very careful about approaching the creep wave, and you'll see anti-mage stays quite far back. I don't know why that track vision doesn't work in the replay. It's very, very odd. Either way. So, it's 13 minutes in. He's roaming a lot. He's not finding too many kills. He's going to look to set one up mid. And we're going to see some really unfortunate timing. Literally the second that he's about to go in, Sankey burrow strikes, and then goes into a sandstorm. Bit of bad luck there. Our hero Radical, not to be dissuaded, not to be frustrated by this. He's going to head top now. And to me, this is the lane that he should have been sticking with, the what lane he should have been picking on more. Because eventually these guys will try and leave their tower. And they're the two squishies. They're in the off lane. They don't actually have too much vision. Remember what I talked about last week. Whenever there's a weak lane, a lane that you can kill, just keep on punishing that lane, and especially as Bounty Hunter. A little bit of a blunder here for Bounty Hunter, though. When you're waiting to set up those kills, if your Shadow Walk's about to run out, you can see if it's about to right here when this green bar disappears. Duck behind the tree line and Shadow Walk again. That way you'll be able to come back out and Viz without revealing yourself. They know he's here now, which is kind of a shame. Either way, he's been persistent for a while now. He's chosen spots wisely. When he's failed, at least he hasn't died. And now it's going to pay off. Track on the Fraudulent Warlock. Gonna last hit the kill, get a huge chunk of bonus gold for everybody. And then watch what happens here. He's got a second kill coming up. Rubik just died as well. Didn't have time to track him. But before killing this guy, he could just kill him now with a Shriek and Toss. But no, he's gonna track first. He's gonna auto-attack. Make sure you get the track off. Make sure you get the bonus gold for your team. And then you run away, or then you get the kill. In this case, he runs the hell away because the tower's hitting him. So important. A lot of times you'll see players will just get the kill and neglect to track. And once in a while you'll have to do it just so they don't escape. But generally speaking, you want to make sure you get that track off first. Going to give your team a lot of gold. Each track, remember, it's like 200, 250, 300 gold, depending on how many allies are there. So now we go forward again to 1530.
Dire's bottom tower.
And this is a point I already made, but I just want to point it out again. 1530. Notice how he tracks the most important hero here. That's the Sand King. He's not trying to track Rubik. He's trying to track the one who can go and Viz, the one who's a Blink Dagger, the one who's really, really fed. He's level 12 compared to everyone else who's 10 or lower. Yeah, I really failed that mid lane. But track that most important hero. And now Sand King's going to live. But well, I think he's going to live. But the fact that he tracks him means that if he tries to come back in, he won't be able to hide. So we're about 60 minutes in. I'm barely going to live here because Morphling's a good hero. Yep, going to survive with like 5 health. We're going to pause again. We took stock of the game earlier. We're now 16 minutes in. Radical during this time has gotten a bottle. He's gotten another 1,200 gold. The last time we took stock, it was 7 minutes in. So in 9 minutes, he's farmed about 1,700 gold for himself. Let's say he's given the team another 400 or 500 total. He's only gotten 2 levels, which isn't the best. I would like to see maybe a little bit more farming in an ideal game. But in an ideal game, your Morphling doesn't lose mid this badly to a Sand King. So, you know, adjustments have to be made. But the big thing is, look how much gold he's gotten for the team. Probably about 2,000 total or so, I want to say. Maybe like more like 2,200, 2,300. This graph will be absolutely out of control without the Bounty Hunter's contribution. I'm not going to have time to show you guys the whole game today, but let me just say, despite me getting worked mid in an easy matchup, we end up winning this game, and it is in no small part due to that early track gold, and then Radical gets a lot more later on. I just want to point out one last thing here, and then we're going to be done with this replay, and it'll be time for questions. He's got every... Oh, actually, that's the other thing I want to point out. And then there's one more. Look how many heroes are tracked right now. 1, 2, 3. The only one who's not is Disruptor. It'd be nice to track, but again, the track's on cooldown. If you get everybody tracked, then there's just no surprises. Like, it's all very obvious what's going to happen. So, this is something I see a lot from pros, is they're constantly just tracking everybody. Not even when they're not looking for kills. Just get the tracks up right away. That way you have the vision, that way you have the minus armor. And if the fight ever goes your way, you have the chasing power. Or the escape if it doesn't go your way. But I want to point out the other thing I actually wanted to point out, which wasn't this, surprisingly. Notice how he doesn't go in here? Do you guys remember the other game that I showed you where Bounty Hunter was like, oh, I want to fight. I see a low HP here. I want to try and kill him. He sees Rubik. Yeah, he does see him because Rubik is tracked. This hero's low, but guess what? Going in would be very, very foolish here. And he's not going to have to do so. Also, there's a Sentry Ward on Warlock, so it's possible there could be one down in the lane. There's not, but actually, oh, there. No, that's an Observer. Why does it say it's both? Whatever. Either way, The point is he's choosing his spots wisely. He's not going in when he could be. So that's going to do it for today. That's going to do it for this episode. But I would like to get some questions now. So if anybody has them, feel free to leave them in chat, and I will choose the good ones to answer. So any questions about Bounty Hunter, about the offlane, about choosing your spots wisely? While I wait, I will mention a couple of random tips. One of them, I think I mentioned it, but just in case I didn't, if you're in the offlane, you can do this especially as Bounty Hunter, but with anyone it's possible. It's just easier when you have invis, in case they spot you. You can body block the creep camp early on. So what I mean by this is, if you don't have a ward, stand here until the 30-second mark, and then your opponents, if they try to actually, if they want to stack it, they're going to have to wait to do so, because you'll stop the creeps from spawning. The other point I wanted to make, in the offlane, you can actually pull the wave pretty easily. I saw this in a pro game recently. You see this a lot from Prophet or Lone Druid. They'll send the Bear or the Treants over somewhere like here, or maybe even a little bit farther over. Then they'll pull the wave up and around the map back to the tower. This lets you farm safely. You can do the same thing with Bounty Hunter. Now your hero will take a little bit of damage doing so, but if you know it's going to be a really hard duel or tri-lane, you expect them to have sentry wards, to be very aggressive at shutting you down. That's an option for you to at least get one wave of experience, get your Janata and your Shadow Walk up. So that's an option for you as well. Just a cool little trick I saw, which I thought I would mention here at the end. But yeah, do we have any good questions for today? Lemon Rind asks, with that sort of hero, is it best to wait for 6 to start roaming, or carry a TP and head to somewhere else if you see it viable? Well, it depends. That's really the answer I'm going to give. A lot of the Chinese bounty hunters in pro games, they get shut down so hard in lane because, again, Bounty Hunter is very weak at actually farming or harassing or otherwise winning that lane. What they'll often do is, at level 3 or 4, they'll go check the rune right before it spawns. Usually this is at the 4-minute mark. And then they'll go gank mid or they'll go gank the jungle in concert with their team. Now this requires your team to have good coordination. The only reason you would want to do this is if you're just not getting experience or gold in that bottom lane, especially experience. So if they're doing things like stacking, and pulling, and just generally being total nuisances to you, then you're going to want to make that adjustment. But if they're not denying you too much, stay in the lane until you get at least 6. I would say get your core levels up, and then go ganking. So like we saw with Radical, get the phase boots, get level 6, and then go. Matty Odds asks, why don't we usually see BH on the hard lane on the competitive scene? Actually, you do. The Chinese teams really like to run it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a staple pick, but it's a common one. The downside to Bounty Hunter, which we saw in that in the second game, he can't do anything if you want to push his lane early on. And that means you're going to lose a lot of towers, you're going to lose gold and map control. Now, sometimes this backfires because it means he can farm it safely farther back. But in general, you don't want to give up those early towers, and Bounty Hunter won't help you to actually keep them up. The other thing is, Bounty Hunter's not good unless your team gets kills, and as a general rule. And some lineups are just very difficult to kill if you have like a Morphling as your hard carry, strong defensive heroes like Earthshaker and Chen. So he's weak in games where there's not a lot of action, not a lot of hero killing. TPN MVZ asks, what is the combo again? Oh, I was talking about the offlane. I don't know if I was showing it, but either way, whatever. You guys probably got the idea. What was the question? So, what is the combo again? Well, generally you want to windwalk first, then come out of when your windwalk's about to, or your shadow walk is about to cool down, when it's about to be available again. You right click first, then you track, and then you can go into shadow walk again and auto attack again. The other option is if you know you're gonna have to chase, throw the shuriken right away, and then windwalk, go for another auto attack, and they're gonna, if they have a waveform or something like a Morphling, and they're gonna be running away, then just keep on chasing, make sure you go the way they're likely to escape, and stay in range for that second shuriken toss, which normally will be enough to kill them off. Since track helps you chase, is there a good case for getting Tranquil Boots on an offlane Bounty Hunter? Or are phase still too good? Generally Tranquil Boots are just not a great choice on Bounty Hunter because he shouldn't be sitting in lane too much. And also he really needs the damage or the attack speed or the HP. Like, he needs a lot of other stuff besides a little bit of regen. I think Bottle should answer most of his regen issues. If you're just going to sit in lane, Tranquil Boot Soul Ring is always decent, but it's a lot better on heroes that have a spammable nuke. So heroes like Windrunner. I think we've seen it on Sand King or Panda. It can be very effective because they can spam the clap, they can spam The Burrow Strike as well. It's not as good on Bounty Hunter. Sure, you can throw Shriek and Toss out there a couple of times, but it's just not the same as an AoE farming spell that also does damage. So generally I'd say it's not optimal, but it could be situationally good. Any other good questions for today? I think that's going to do it for today, guys. Doesn't seem like we have as many questions this time. So, thank you all very much for tuning in. I hope you found this episode of Dota 101 helpful. Your homework for this week is just play Bounty Hunter in the offlane, see how it goes. Now, you don't even have to play him in the offlane, although I think it will be more educational to do so. And the one thing I'll say about him is I think he's very forgiving as an offlane hero, especially if you're new, because no matter what happens, you always have Windwalk to get away. And, well, a lot of other heroes don't, and being invisible in these low-level games, very, very powerful ability to have. It really makes Shadowblade the best item to build. So I would say just try Bounty Hunter, give him a shot in the offlane. I know for a lot of players that Suicide Lane is scary. It's called the Suicide Lane for a reason, right? But it doesn't have to be. Bounty Hunter, well, similar to Broodmother, although she's a little bit easier to play in the offlane, I would say. But it's a hero that can really have a good impact. And it's also very forgiving because even if you don't farm well, Track will help carry you back into the game gold-wise. So give that offlane Bounty Hunter a shot. One other random thing I will mention, which I personally find a lot of fun, don't be afraid to try a comedy build on Bounty Hunter. This is my personal favorite, although I've lost games doing it. Go for Dagon 5 and Ethereal Blade. This works better if you have a quick start, if you're maybe solo mid or something like that, or farming the safe lane. The reason it works in Bounty Hunter, more so than other heroes, is because he can actually afford it as a track. So try Dagon 5 Ethereal Blade if you want something a little more fun. But that's going to do it for this week, guys. Tomorrow we have the 5-man challenge, twitch.tv/luminousinverse, or just go to dotacommentaries.com. That's where you'll find that. The VODs for today will be available on dotacommentaries.com, as well as for all the previous days. Click on the Dota Show link at the top, and on YouTube as well, youtube.com/LDdota for all mine, youtube.com/luminousinverse for all of his. Thank you all very much again for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, spread the word to your friends. Talk about it on all your favorite community sites. And if you have any feedback, as always, email it to thedotashow@gmail.com, email it to ld@lddota.com. Either way is perfectly fine by me. And that's it. If you want more content from me, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. All those links should be in the chat for you. And just